This next blot is a lot of individual short shtiklach that are all ribbis related. So it's might have to learn some Rashis as we go along because there's not a lot of explanation in the Gemara to explain what we're talking about. Zok the Mishnah. Daf Ayin Beis Amid Beis in the Mishnah. Ein Paiskan ala Paris. This is the din that we've been referencing from the beginning of Ezu Neshech. One cannot make a forward contract on Paris where Reuven agrees to buy Paris from Shimon. He pays him $100 now for $100 for 10 pounds of Paris. The reason why you can't do that is because what if it goes up where those 10 pounds of potatoes are worth $150? Reuven had agreed he's going to pay Shimon in a year. So maybe Paris will go, instead of now they're going $10 for 10 pounds for $100, it'll be 10 pounds for $150. And he's going to get the 10 pounds of potatoes, which is worth more than what he had originally given, which resembles ribis, until it's Yotza Hashar, until there's a set market price. Once there's a second market price, if Reuben gives Shimon the $100 now, Shimon can go to the store and buy $100. He could buy the 10 pounds of potatoes and hold on to them for a year and then give them to Reuben. So therefore, it wouldn't be a problem. Yotza Hashar, Paiskin. But once the shar it comes out, then it could be Paisik. Then it's not a problem. This vav is not really what it means to say. And the reason is, even though maybe Shimon doesn't have 10 pounds of potatoes that he could hold on to, but he can go buy it from someone else with the money that he received. What if the case was that there wasn't Yotza Hashar? This was the first. Reuven was buying from Shimon. Shimon was a farmer, but the potatoes hadn't yet matured and there weren't potatoes around. If he has, let's say it was wheat, Shimon can sell to Reuven futures in wheat if he has a gadish, if he has a granary or a haystack full of wheat. Even though it's not yet threshed into actual wheat, but since he has the raw wheat, he can use that. These are all going to be examples of things. So this is the heter of Yeshloi, even if it's not Yotza Hashar. If the seller has the thing being sold in his possession, that's even better than Yotza Hashar. The whole reason for Yotza Hashar is because Af Bisha Ein Lezeh Yesh Lezeh. But this is Yesh Lezeh. So, but these cases in the Mishnah are talking about where he has the merchandise, but it's not yet finished. So if he can be Paisik Imala Godish if the seller has raw wheat that hasn't yet been threshed. He can use that. That's considered Yeshloi because he'll thresh it when the time comes and he'll have it available to pay back without having to go buy more expensive wheat. Or if he has a vat of grapes, which he can then squeeze and make into wine. So he's buying wine in the future. The same thing with, he said he's buying olive oil, futures on olive oil, and the seller has olives that haven't yet been pressed. And the balls of clay of a yotzer that haven't yet been made into pottery. He's buying pottery for the future. As long as he has the clay, the potter can make it into kelim. If he wants to buy cement mix, but it's been put into the furnace to bake. The way you make cement the way you make mortar is you put it into, you take clay, mix it with coal and a bunch of things, and you fire it in a kiln, and then you grind it up again. So, but this hasn't yet been fired, but it's already in the kivshin, ready to be fired. All these, it's considered sufficient yeshloi that the seller is not going to be chayiv for taking ribis or for paying ribis. In addition, he can be paisik for future delivery of zevel, since zevel is available all year round. You just go into the street and pick up some. It's not a problem. It's always yesh. No, it's not true. You can't just say, I'm going to go get some zevel, because Rabbi Yossi says that although it's free to take, but people very often will collect their own zevel and they'll use it for their own fields. So even though when someone doesn't want it, he just leaves it out, but it's not guaranteed. Therefore, you can't be paisek for the future, because if the end of the year comes and you're not able to get it, then you're going to have to pay someone a premium to get it, and it turns out it's going to be ribbis. Chum matir. Chum say it's okay. Upaisik imoi b'shar hagavaya. So let's go back to our case, right? Ruvain is purchasing wheat from Shimon. He's buying 10 pounds of wheat for $100, and that's the current price. And he's pricing, and it's Yatsa Shar, and that's taka the current price. But in 6 months, it's likely, that's going to be when it's going to be worth more. It's going to be worth 150. Reuven can say, if there is a glut of wheat, someone comes in with a container ship with 1,000 tons of wheat, and now instead of being $100 for 10 pounds of wheat, it becomes $50 for 10 pounds of wheat. Reuven can say, but if that's the case, I don't want you. I gave you $100. I don't want to get just 10 pounds of wheat, because then I'm losing out. He could make a floor. He could say, I am not willing to take wheat if wheat has gone down in price. You have to give me my full $100 worth of, either give me my $100 or give me wheat worth $100. Yudah says doesn't have to be, he doesn't have to even say that. Rashi explains, since there was no Mashiach, right? When you have a forward contract between Reuven and Shimon, so Reuven gives over the money to Shimon. Now, obviously, Shimon is not giving the chayfetz, he's not giving the wheat, what's being sold to Reuven, because it's a forward contract. It only is going to be filled at the end of the year. So there's no Kinyan Mashiach. Therefore, Reuven can be chayzer. And Rashi says it's not even going to be a Misha Para, right? Usually there's a Misha Para once money has been handed over. I think Rashi says that. Yeah, Rashi says, the last Rashi in the Mishnah, the Misha Par is only if you made a deal and the deal is to hand over something immediately. But where it's going to be later, he doesn't want to take a hit for the fact that he's waiting to get his delivery. We said in the Mishnah that you can do a forward contract. You'd be paisik Paris for the future. If it's Yotza Hashar, if there's a market value. He says, but that doesn't include if you go into your local grocery, you have your local market in your village, and you go there and they call hooking out a price. It has to be a more wide-ranging, a more accepted market price in order to avoid the issue of ribbis. Amalei Rav Zeir L'Ravasi Amar Rabbi Yechon. I feel Kedurmas Hazeh. What he said to him, what about, could it be even if you have this large market? He was in a central town, a central city, where they had a large market that everyone looked to for the price. He's saying even that is insufficient. Amalei, loy. The Amar Rabbi Yochanan, that which Rabbi Yochanan said, he said he only excluded a small marketplace, that is not sufficient to be gaveya, that's Yatza Shar. So Gemara asked, if we're saying we're on Ayin Beis, on Mid Beis, a little bit after the Mishnah. So the Mishnah had said, if you remember the rule, that one can't buy merchandise for the future because we're worried that the price will go up. You can't do a forward contract where you're paying now for produce in the future because the value might go up and then you'll be getting ribbis. We said you could do so if it was Yatza Hashar, if there was a market price, because then the person who got the money can go and purchase the property right now and use it later to pay up. So now we're talking about what kind of market determines the price. So Gemara had a havamina that even a large market is not enough to determine the price. So Zak Gemara, Elamastis in the Tani ein Paiskin ala Peiris Achi Yatza Ashar Paiskin Heichi Mishkachas. It was saying even if this large marketplace is not enough to be kaveya the shar, so where are you going to be to determine the market price? So Gemara Masnisin Bechiti da Akalvi va'arbi de Moshach Tare Tvei. We're talking about when the deliveries and the ship all come in, from afar, and that is a huge amount of produce, and that sets a price that spreads for far and wide. So that is what's considered to be Yotza Hashar. That at least that was the Havamina. That maybe you have to wait for that in order to be Kaveh the Shar. So we said no, even if it's just a large central marketplace of a city, that's sufficient. Taner Rabban, Ein Poiskin al Paris, Acha Yotza Hashar. We said you can't be Poisik on Paris. You can't make a forward contract for the sale of Paris until the Shar comes out. Yotza Shar Poiskin al Bishain Lezeh Yesh Lezeh, like we explained in the Mishnah, because the seller, even though he doesn't have the property in his possession, he could go take the money that he received and go buy it right away. And once he has it in his possession, he's not going to lose. Even if the price goes up, he'll hand it over to the buyer. What if, as we've discussed before, we're talking about wheat, and wheat, when it's first harvested, is very moist, and it weighs more, but that extra weight doesn't result in that's water weight. It doesn't result in extra flour. So the early wheat, before it's been aged, is less valuable than aged wheat. Aged wheat has the moisture, it's dehumidified, it has the moisture taken out of it, and whatever's left is all going to be flour. So the chadashos the new wheat was you get 4 pounds for a saw, 4 saw for a sella. We'll say it 4 pounds for $1. Yeshenus mishalish, and the old wheat, the ready ripened wheat or the ready aged wheat, you'd get less. You get 3 pounds for $1. He can't say, give me wheat in 6 months, then all the wheat is going to be old wheat, and now I'll pay you for the new wheat price. I'll pay you the amount that you pay to get, I'm paying you less, and I'm going to get the more valuable wheat, because that's going to be a ribbis problem. Unless once it's once they all become the same, once everything is aged, then you could go ahead and buy for the future. You don't have to worry. The Lakutis, Rashi says, were people who would glean wheat. They would go, leket chikha and payah. So leket is when you go take the leftover sheaves of wheat. But that was lower quality wheat. Usually the better quality wheat was picked up by the farmer, and what was left over, you would get a mishmash from different places. It was lesser quality. So that you would get 4 pounds for $1. And everyone what was sold from other people, from a typical person, which wasn't Lakutis, was for 3. You can't buy it until they're equal for the same problem, like we said before. You don't want them to pay for the loiket price and then later on get more. Rashi says, "Ein poiskin imbal habayis me'arba." if you see Rashi sticks in the words, ain't like 5 lines from the bottom, which the Gemara doesn't say, in Poiskim in Balabayas. You can't buy from a Balabayas paying that lower price. He's saying, I'm going to buy Lakutas from you, from the Balabayas now, for Arba. So Rashi until everyone has it for that price. Amar Rav Nachman, Paiskin Lakutas Kashar Lakutas. Rav Nachman says that's only if you're buying, like Rashi had amended the Gemara, from a Balabayas. You're buying Lakutas, you're buying these lesser types of wheat from a Balabayas. But if you're going to buy from an actual gleaner, then you could buy it at the price of 4 pounds for $1, the cheaper price. Amalei Rabbi Rav Nachman, Mashal like it. Why is it that you're allowed to buy from the like it? The less lay Yaz of me like it Chavrei. We say even though he doesn't necessarily have right now available the wheat, and he's buying it for the future, but he can go. He's in the like it union. He can go from another poor person who gets laket, and he'll get from him. Balabayis nami as milak. So why can't the Balabayis also? He's getting his dollar. Let him go right now to someone who's a gleaner and find someone who's a gleaner and get from him. It's embarrassing for him. He doesn't want to be from those people who goes around. He's a big businessman. He doesn't want to deal with the schnorr. Or else you could say, no, the problem is, even though you're buying Lakutas, but you expect in the end that the Balabai is going to get you good wheat. The distinction is not so clear. So you're really expecting to get better, and therefore it's really ribis because you're expecting to get the 3 pounds of wheat for $1, not the 4 pounds of wheat for $1. Until now, we've been talking about a forward sale, right? Where Reuven buys from Shimon, where he gives him now $100 for 10 pounds of produce in a year, and we're worried that the produce will be worth $150 in a year. So we say it's Yatz Ashar, you could do it. But we say once it's Yatz Ashar, it's not a problem because Shimon could go and buy. But that's all with a purchase. What about a halva, where, like Rashi explains, Ein Lavan al Shabbos Shuk, Ani Shamati, Ein Lavan Mois B'derech halva, Amanashim Lo Yashal Moch Mois Atzman Pleni Etelach Perush Kashar Shalapsha. You can't do this if this is essentially the same thing, but with in the format of a loan, where Reuven borrows money from Shimon, and he says, let's make it the other way. Shimon borrows money from Reuven because Shimon has been the seller in all our cases. So Shimon borrows money from Reuven, and he says, I'm borrowing $100 from you, and right now $100 buys 10 pounds of wheat, and in a year I'll pay you back 10 pounds of wheat. The Afal Gav the Derech Mekku Shari, even though if you do this Derech Mekku Memker, and it's Yotza Hashar, and we know that 10 pounds of wheat costs $100, Derech Halva also. Okay, because it's Derech Halva, so the problem is that it's much closer to being ribis when it's done in the format of halva, right? When we talk about a sale, a forward sale, so we're reading in that there's an imputed loan, there's a not unstated loan involved. And therefore, we say it's similar to ribis, but if it's Yatz Ashar, we overlook that. But when it starts off as a loan, so it's not an imputed loan, it's the loan is right there on the surface. So then the Chachamim were Masakin, even if it's Yatz Hashar, that's not going to save us from being treated as ribis. Amalei, we'll just give you we're up to Ayin Beis Amud Beis. It's a bunch of short things today, a whole bunch of them. We might have, like I told Lizzie, might have to do a lot of Rashi because I don't know if I remember each thing, what the setup is. It's like, 2 lines with a whole setup and a whole explanation without anything in the Gemara. Anyway, we saw the Mishnah. We talked about our general rule that when you make a forward sale of property, if it's Yatza Hashar, then it's not a problem of ribs. Generally, when you make a forward sale of Paris, we're worried that maybe the Paris will go up in value. But if it's already if the value is already dictated by the market, so then the seller can go take the money and buy the property, buy the tour, and use that to pay back at the end. So it's not ribs. But the Gemara is now saying, that's only what's in the form of a sale. But if it's a loan where the person who would be the seller is borrowing money and he's saying, I'm going to pay it back with Paris, then it doesn't help that it's Yatza Hashar. Does Rav Huna really say that if it's in the form of a halva, that Yatza Hashar is not going to help you from it being ripped? So boy mine Rav Huna hani bnei beirav, these scholars, the Yasfi b'Tishrei, they borrow in Tishrei. They borrow $100 in Tishrei, pari b'Tevis, and they pay back in Tevis. Shari Aser, is it allowed or is it Aser? Amaleh luhu, and we're talking about. Rashi says the Yasvi b'Tishrei mois pari Paris b'Tevis. Rashi does not. It's not even the body of the Rashi. It's in the Divrei Amaschal. The Rashi sticks down. They're paying back Paris and Tevis, even though the Gemara didn't say that. And he says, he says they're borrowing in Tishrei, and they're paying it back a few months later, 6 months later in Tevis. Shari Ayasa, is it allowed or not? They're borrowing with money and they're paying back with Paris. He says it's Yatza Hashar. You can go get the Paris, you can go get it in Hini, you can get it in Shilu, wherever you want, you can go buy it. So he could go take the money that he got, that he borrowed, and use it to buy the Paris that he has to pay back. So you see that it's not a problem as long as it's Yatza Hashar, even though it was in the form of a loan. We're not worried about the fact that the prices will go up and he's going to have to pay back more. So tomorrow, Savar Rav Huna in Lovin. Rav Huna first held that when it's in the form of a loan, even if it's Yatza Hashar, to make a future payment is us. Given the Shamal Hadam of Shmuel Amar Rav Lovin, since he heard the Shmuel said B'Shem Bulaz that you can lend Amar Iyunami Lovin, he changed his mind and he agreed that even a halva is good if it's Yatza Hashar. Tanarabam, Hamoyle Chavila Mimakam Lamak. There's a businessman. He was bringing his merchandise, his umbrellas, or I should say his wheat, from one place to another. Matzu Chaveru. Let's say it was I don't remember. I think it was umbrellas. And he found his friend came across him. Give it to me. He was going from Rochester to New York. In Rochester, the umbrellas sold for $10 a piece. In New York, they sold for $20 a piece. This guy who met him, he said, I'm going to New York. Give me the umbrellas. I'll pay you $20 at the end. I'll go sell them in New York for you, and I'll give you the $20. So Zok Gemara, Bershus Moicher Mut. If the umbrellas remain in the responsibility of the seller, of the businessman who had originally intended to bring them to New York, so it's still his, and this guy is just bringing it there and selling it on his behalf, so then it's allowed. Bershus Lekech, but Lekech is the one who's responsible, so he's lending them to the Lekech. Now Lekech has a chiyuv to pay him back, and the Lekech is paying back. In Rochester, they're only worth $10, and he's paying him back $20. So why is this Lekech doing it? He's paying him back more for the privilege of holding on to the money after he sells the umbrellas in New York. He'll have the $20, and he can go buy something there with that money. So he's paying him extra beyond what the market price is in Rochester in order to have the privilege of using money. That's ribis. So it's awesome. So that was with umbrellas. Someone was carrying wheat from one place to another, from Rochester to New York. And again, it was more valuable in New York than in Rochester. Namely, so here he said a different thing. He said, before we were talking about Yatza Ashar. Over here we're talking about, he said, give them to me, and I'm going to give you, I happen to have Paris that I have in New York. So give me the Paris at the price, at the New York price, and I'll give you in the future, I'll pay you back, because I have Paris in New York, and I really want to eat, I want to make myself a sandwich right now. If he has Paris in New York, it's mutter. But if not, it's aser, because if it's yeshlei, as we know, yeshlei is even better than yatz ashar. Yeshlei, it's treated for purposes of ribis as if the borrower already returned the property that he has sitting over there. It's as if he returned it. But if not, it's going to be aser, because this person who's giving him the wheat, he's going to wait to get paid back, and this guy is paying him the price of the more expensive place. This is another case. So let's see the Rashi which describes this case. These chamarim are donkey drivers. They are transporters. Their businesses, they take tvua from a place where it's cheap, and they go and sell it in a place where it's more expensive. They could go to New York. They say they take orders. They say, listen, I'm going to get the good wheat, and it costs $20 a pound here. So, like, let's say people buying matzah, right? They take the matzah orders. So out in Nebraska, matzah is $10 a pound. But in New York, it's $20 a pound. So he goes before and he gets a sign-up sheet, and whoever wants their matzah, they have to pay him $20, and he's going to go get the matzah from Nebraska. It's not a problem of ribis, even though he's there. He's not. They're giving him the money, and it's more than the amount of the property. At least, no, actually, it is the property at that time, but he's going to get it for cheaper, and he's going to make money on it. My timer. What's the reason? Why is it not ribis? Why is it not hamtonis mois? That they're waiting, they're getting a discount for paying in advance, right? You could have ribis. We were talking about forward contract, where someone pays now to get more later. Over here, it's the other way around. I'm sorry, I said it wrong. He's allowing the people in New York to pay the $10 a pound of the Nebraska price. He says, I'm going to go to Nebraska and buy for you. Give me the money right now, the $10 a pound, and I'm going to go get you the matzah from Nebraska. So what he's essentially doing is he's saying, because you're paying me early, I'm giving you a cheaper price. That's really the same thing as saying, if I give it to you later, you have to pay an extra price. He's giving them essentially ribis for the privilege of getting the money earlier. Right? He's giving them something more expensive. It costs $20 a pound in New York. He's giving it to $10 a pound because they're paying in advance. So why isn't that ribis? Dr. Gemara, there's two possible reasons. My time there, Papa. He says, because the reason why this chamar is giving a lower price, it's not because he wants to have the money per se. It's because let's see Rashi, shal yidei ma'osav shel zeh, because they have these advance orders. They're going to be looked on as busy merchants, and the balabatim in the place in Nebraska when he's going to go to buy it are going to recognize him. They'll give him credit, and they'll do a good deal for them. And so the idea is he's not that he's giving them a lower price because he's getting the money early. It's just by having the orders in hand that benefits the seller, this guy who's going to Nebraska. So he just wants the money for the sake of having orders in his hand, not because of the time value of it. Because he gets treated differently when he goes to buy if he already has money in his hands.
So what's the benefit? So could you just finish up the Rashi? So Rashi is explaining this.
Even if it wasn't that he got to keep the money of these purchasers for any amount of time, even if he had to bring them the tfuah that they're buying right away, it's worth of him to take the achrayas.
Why? What is he? What is the value? What does he make? Where does he make his money?
He makes his money. There's some built-in profit. He gets some profit from it. Whatever, he sells it for a little bit different. But the point is that he's going to get a better deal. He's going to be treated differently because he has cash. He has cash. Yeah, his buying power will be better. It doesn't say that exactly. It says it doesn't say specifically that his buying power is more, but it's more that he gets.
I thought obviously Ribis because he holds on to the money now. He has advance payment. He has money to play with now for a month or two.
But we're saying that's just
Rashi is saying no.
That's just a side thing. That's not really his focus.
The focus seems like
just to have cash at hand, that he's able to pay cash rather than just having
from New York
IOUs.
to Rochester.
Yeah, but if he goes to Rochester, he says, "I have IOUs, and now you sell me your stuff, and then I'll go back to New York, get the money, come back here, pay you."
Your buying power is not so high.
But like Rashi says, they'll even extend credit to him if he has cash. He says, "Look, he flashes a big wad." They'll say, "Okay, no problem. Take whatever you want. You're obviously going to be a good customer." And we know.
So you get them for 8 then? Is that what it is?
It doesn't say that. You're focused on making money. You shouldn't be so crass, so mercenary.
These donkey drivers, what are they doing over here?
They're selling it, obviously selling it for more than they got. There's some built-in float, but we're talking about that when we say they're doing it for the price of over there, he means that there's a little bit of float there.
I guess what I'm asking is how's it different than how's it different than any merchant ever? What's so special? What's unique about this case now? I'm a little bit confused. The fact that he's in New York and they're in Rochester.
Because they're giving him cash.
There's a regular
because the price in New York now is $20. And he's saying, I'm selling it to you for $10. Now, he's paying $9 in New York, whatever, because he's coming as a merchant. But that's not the point. The point is that he's giving these purchasers a better price because they're paying in advance. So that's paying for time value of money. He's saying, if you pay me now, if you pay earlier, it's the same thing. If you go into a store, you're buying furniture. And you say, listen, if you pay at the time of order, it's $100. If you pay cash on delivery, then it's $110. That's basically they want to have the money in their hands because they.
Is that Rivas?
Theoretically, it could be, unless there's some other reason other than the fact that they want to have the use of the money. Listen, I mean, it could be in that case. If they have to then take the money and send it to Italy to send the furniture, that's not Rivas. But if they have it in their warehouse and they say, listen, we're going to hold on to the furniture for 6 months. And if you pay it now, we'll give it to you for $100. If you pay it in 6 months when we get it, it's $120. That sounds like Rivas, right? They're just not delivering it and they're holding on to money.
One thing, but you pay them in 6 months, 110. Whatever,
which is the case of the Chamarim.
Right. So at this point, why is it even treated as a loan?
Well, they gave the Chamer money, and he didn't give them anything right now.
No, this case I understand.
Yeah, it's really it's an advanced purchase.
That's okay. So the furniture is not delivered.
You think of the furniture? You talk about the furniture?
Look at the furniture.
Okay.
The furniture is not delivered. The money is not paid. So there's no loan.
I'm talking about what he did. Were you saying where he said I'm going to pay it in 6 months when the furniture is delivered?
Right.
Yes, that's not a problem.
That's not a problem.
The problem is if you pay the $100 in advance, that's a problem. I'm saying if the deal is that it's cheaper if you pay earlier, that's a problem. Obviously, if you pay on the spot $120 for your furniture, that's a classic sale. So that was one. You bought furniture?
Yeah, exactly. That's what right when you said it, I said, oh no. My house was last year. Every single thing I bought, whether it was windows or doors.
But like I said, they have to ship it from somewhere. So that's not ribbis. If it's because they have to go take the money, go make an order someplace else, they're basically middlemen. So they're ordering it, and then it's going to come to you eventually.
Usually you put some money down. That's what happened.
Yeah, right. Yeah, usually they're floating the money. They're floating the money to you. Really, you put money down, they pay for the whole value of the thing. But they know that when it comes to you, that you'll pay the rest. But they don't want you to just decline delivery. Say, "Oh, I changed my mind. I'm not building my house." But I don't think you're in anything. They're lending you money.
Right. Well,
yeah. And listen, all these things. Believe me, if you ask any expert in ribbis, they're going to say there's a lot of potential downfalls if you run a business with any kind of credit. You have to be very worried about ribbis. I'm sure, like what you're talking about, if you were the businessman, and maybe if you're the purchaser also, you probably should consult a Rav before you make a purchase. I don't know if the Rav will be able to determine exactly how the business is working, but it's not necessarily clear that it's always good. So that was one teretz. It's depressing.
No, because I start thinking of Eis Neshech. It's on both parties. I'm a little bit worried. I'm a little uncomfortable with this right now.
But the only thing that
because I know for a fact in the last year, I with my house, this came up multiple times that I'd get a better deal if I'd pay up front.
Right. But like I said, very often that's because they're laying out money for you. If you place an order for doors,
no, I have my flooring guy. Like I know.
Is he Jewish?
I think the owner was. He had them. He actually told me I have it in my warehouse.
Yeah.
I bought wood 15 years ago. It hasn't changed, but the price. I don't know about wood flooring. It changes from week to week.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing. It's like a commodity.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. It definitely could be.
And they tell me if I pay right now,
so then you lock in.
I lock in the price, but if I get it in a week from now, it could change.
Okay, so but why can't it be that you're buying it? It's Yeshloi. He has it in his warehouse.
This is right. So, but it is an issue of ribbis, but because it's Yeshloi, it's not an issue.
I'm not paskening over here. I'm saying it could very well be.
Oh, it's done already.
So two things you have to realize, right? Like we said, at Goyim, it doesn't apply, and secondly, wherever there's.
I think like also meaning I'm allowed to take right. We go to Mitzvah Shabbos. I'm allowed to take rib. I'm allowed to pay ribbis to a guy.
Yeah, right. Both ways.
It sounds like the law either. I feel good.
Also, if it's not ribbis to him, then it's not ribbis to you. It means if he has a heter,
right?
There's no problem with you paying ribbis if it's not ribbis.
If he has the issue, yeah.
If he has whatever his heter. He says a slightly different explanation, like Rashi says, the Musli Gabayu. When he shows up, the schammer shows up with the cash, and they hear that he paid the lower price, they don't want to lose his business. They want to keep him in business. So they hear that he's doing this lower amount. So when he's doing the lower amount, it gets them to lower their prices because they don't want him to go out of business. Sounds like a bad business plan, but in any case, what's the difference between the two svaras of why it's beneficial for him to get the money in advance, even for the lower price? If it's a new seller in the cheap place, so If it's because, like we said, the first shot, that he wants to get better access because he comes in flashing a large amount of cash, so that makes sense. But according to the Amud that says because he wants to keep the business, if it's a new guy, he's not a constant businessman. He hasn't had this guy in the past, so he's not gonna give him a break because he has money to spend right away that he owes it to the original purchaser for a cheaper price. Besura Azli Arba Arba. So this is talking about a case. They were selling bundles of wheat, a pound of wheat, 4 pounds for a sub, 4 sub for a seller. We'll say 4 pounds for $1. The Kafri Yazl and Shisha Sisha, and in Kafri was going 6 pounds for $1. So it's cheaper in Kafri than in Surah. Yoav Rav Zuzi Lechamri. Rav gave cash to the Chamri who was going from the expensive place, from Surah to Kafri, to buy the cheap wheat. But and he was makabel on himself that if anything happens to it along the way, he's going to be responsible. So, like we said it before, early on the top of the Yom, but in that case, it's not a loan because Rav was responsible for it. So he's not lending him the money. He's not lending him the money. It's his wheat. B'shakol minayu chamisha, and he took from him only 5, meaning he split the difference, even though there's no problem of ribbis because Rav was accepted upon himself that if something happens to the money on the way, he's going to be responsible. He's not loaning the money to the other guy. He still said, I'm only reducing the price. I'm not taking the price of over there where you get 6 pounds for $1. I'm only going to take 5 pounds for $1. The Nishkol sees, so effectively, why doesn't he take the full cheaper price since it's his money and he's taking the responsibility of the money along the way?
Essentially, he's just a hired
just right.
driver.
He's just a shliach.
Yeah, he's just
exactly. Since he was an Adam Choshev, and it would have the appearance, if nothing happened to it, and people don't realize that he took upon responsibility, it will look as if he's being Isaac and Ribbis, so he took a slightly reduced price, so people should realize that it's not a Ribbis deal. Boy, okay, we're going to stop over here. Okay. Let's start. Let's ask this question because this is really a continuation. What is the din? We were talking about payment. What if he's doing it with other types of inventory? Like Rashi says, with the pieces of metal. Do we say it's only tvua that? Since we said this svara that people want to ensure that they'll be treated well, that's only the tvua where people are constantly coming back and forth. So you have business reasons why it's kedai for you to have the cash. Like we said, either because you'll get better credit, people will treat you differently, they'll give you a cheaper price. But what about grutas, which is like a one-off thing, so it's not a regular business deal? Do we say the same thing? He wanted to do the same thing with like Krishna, which is similar to grutas, that it's not a regular deal. Rabbi did not allow him for that reason. It's not, doesn't have those explanations. Rabbi Yossi did not allow it. Okay.
What is
Stop over here. Yeah, go ahead.
What was I saying?